All right, what's up, family? Welcome to today's wealth building class. It is Friday, what, the 10th? The 10th, right? It's a one day. We're going to get at it, be focused, disciplined. That is what one is about, right? Today's class, I want to focus on sacrifice, right? The other classes we were focusing on elemental assets and how the elements play into the different wealth systems that we create in the physical world. But people aren't really keyed in on what actually drives these systems forward. Right, I told you about fire energy last time, about how fire surges value. Another thing that surges fire energy is sacrifice, right? I wanted to just give you all the background of what we're going to be talking about. I'll run through the different levels of this class today. We're going to be doing a sort of characterization of sacrifice, right? I want to say the characterization of evil because we're going to be talking about some evil characters and their importance, but it's not just about evil. I have good characters too, but I do want to emphasize the darkness aspect of what we're going to be talking about. Not that darkness is evil, but I want people to be able to see both sides of this, right? Now that we have the rundown of what the class is going to be today, I want to get into the characterization of sacrifice, right? I have 4 characters, very pivotal characters in fiction, right? And these characters embody sacrifice, and their sacrifice is important. Some of them are evil, some of them are good, right? Evil and good. These things don't exist, but they kind of do. We'll have a whole other class about that, but it's all relative, right? Now, I chose specific evil characters because these characters, even though they were evil, their methods were very harsh. They succeeded, and their intentions were actually good. I could have put more characters on there that really, they did bad things for good reasons, but I wanted to focus on these 4 characters. The 2 good characters, they were very selfless, and that's why I label them as quote-unquote good, because the evil characters, you'll notice that the divide was the evil characters sacrificed other people to get to their goals. And the good characters, they sacrifice themselves, right? Now, that is not inherently good and evil. Sacrificing yourself is not inherently good. Sacrificing others is not inherently evil. But I want you to see the importance of both, right? We're going to get into the PowerPoint. I'm going to switch screens right now. Do y'all know who these characters are? If you know who these characters are, type the character that you recognize in the chat. All these characters are very important. I try to get characters from different mediums of media, right? Not all of us are familiar with heroes or anime or, Hunger Games, whatever, right? Fiction, novels, The Master Alchemist, that's my guy, Edward Elric, man. We're going to watch a clip about him at the end. We're going to watch a clip about him and his sacrifice. It's a super impactful scene from the show Full Metal Alchemist where he meets God. And we're going to also show the opposite side of that, where the villain of that show also meets God, but there's 2 completely different interactions between the hero and the villain when they meet God. On the far left, right, we have this handsome white man. His name is Ozymandias. He is a villain, right? Through and through, he is a villain. But like all of the villains that I study, right, because I want you guys to be able to study good and bad people. This is how we learn and grow and alchemize our energies, right? It's just duality. You got to be able to do both at certain points in time. Can't only be one thing because they're going to get blown over when the opposite thing confronts you, right? On the far left, we have Ozymandias. He is a master of duality. He studies ancient Egypt. He studies the occult, and he is from the show and the movie and the comics Watchmen, right? If you're familiar with Watchmen, put a star in the chat. But Watchmen is a show about some heroes, and basically they're fighting the forces of evil. It's a regular hero show, but Ozymandias, he was a hero. He was a part of the hero group, but he saw a bad future coming in the form of nuclear apocalypse, nuclear war, and he decided to become an antagonist, right? He became an antagonist because he decided to take things into his own hands. What he ended up doing was, this man sacrificed an entire city of people. He sacrificed an entire city of people, right? He sacrificed other people. This is what makes him a true evil villain, right? He has no bounds when it comes to harming others for the gain of himself, and not only the gain of himself, but the gain of others, right? He sacrificed about 1 million or so people in the city of New York so that the entire world could have peace and unity, right? Now, this sounds like a far-fetched plan. I'm not glorifying what he did because that shit was crazy as fuck. I wouldn't have handled it like that, but you have to respect it at the end of the day, because after he sacrificed those 1 million people, the world united. They united. They were on the brink of nuclear war. Russia versus the United States. They were about an apocalypse. and he saved everybody, right? Said, I see what you mean though, because I'm not lying. He saved the entire world by sacrificing 1 million people. Now, that is crazy. That is super crazy. I would never do that, like I said. But you have to acknowledge the level and the lengths he was willing to go to succeed. He sacrificed all of those people. And that's what I need you to ground into your own repertoire. I need you to have that in your holster. Maybe not millions of people, but that person that's weighing you down in life, you could surely cut them off. Those habits that are weighing you down in life, you could surely cut that off. A lot of us have addictions. A lot of us have vices, right? And although I do not demonize these things, sometimes it just be some regular human shit. And we came here to be human, and then we're going to rise above it after we die. But, you know, some of us want to rise above it in this current life. We don't want to wait until we die. I'm one of those people. I had to cut off all of my addictions, all of my vices. And this is the path that I'm on, right? My goal is to master sacrifice before I die. And that is a very important part of my journey. I want to express that to y'all, though. You can sacrifice a little thing here and there to get to where you want to be. Like I said at the beginning, when you choose this, right? When you choose this goal, that goal that you wrote down on a paper at last week's class, once you choose that, you are not just choosing that and then choosing whatever you want after that. You're choosing that and rejecting everything else. It's not going to work unless you reject everything. You have to only choose what you want. You're confusing the universe when you only choose this, but then you also choose that, and you also choose the third. You're confusing. Be direct. Be clear, right? Ozymandias, he was clear as fuck. Like I said, that's some crazy shit. I would never do that. But you have to respect it at the end of the day. He's a hero in his world. Like, he's literally a hero. After going through all those great lengths, right? Now, we're going to get into the next character. The next character is a character that I respect a lot. I wasn't going to include her in this PowerPoint, but I wanted to because she is a very selfless person, and it mimics the relationship with the divine, right? I'm going to explain it. Katniss Everdeen, who is familiar with the Hunger Games in here? Type a arrow in the chat if you're familiar with the Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen, her sacrifice is super, super, super important, and it's selfless, right? It's divine because, oh God, it's divine because, Katniss, she sacrificed herself so that her sister could live, right? She sacrificed herself so that her sister could live, so that she could avoid death in the Hunger Games. What ended up being a selfish goal, right? She wanted to protect her own people. She didn't care about anybody else. It was selfless, but selfish in the short term. In the long run, she was drafted to a more selfless goal. She sacrificed herself so that the entire empire could collapse, so that the evil people who ran her system could die, right? So that the system could collapse, so that they could have a better future. She sacrificed herself, right? So what started as a kind of interpersonal, selfless, but broad scale, selfish goal became a super selfless goal, right? And I want to emphasize the divine aspect of that, because a lot of times we want something in life, we say, okay, God, okay, universe, I'm going to sacrifice this. I'm going to put this up to you so that you can take it from me. But the universe has greater plans for us. Katniss didn't want to fucking save the world. She just wanted to save her sister. But a lot of times the divine takes us and they take everything from us. Trust me, I know. They take everything. They don't leave a crumb. And then they want you to make some new shit so that they could take that too. But the divine is going to give you so much more, so much greater than what you could possibly imagine. It's crazy. And it seems unfair sometimes. I always emphasize the fact that life is not fair, but life is balanced. And that's real. You know, sometimes the universe, the reality, whatever you want to call it, takes everything from you. And they want more. I'm one of those people. I'm not going to lie. That's why I'm teaching this class. I've been taken from so much shit I had to give up. And then God told me, build this, so that God could take that from me too. Dead ass. This is a real thing that we go through, and it's all to get us to that highest timeline, right? Like I told you, when we choose this, we have to reject everything else. So that's Katniss, right? Now we're going to get into, I didn't explain Griffith already. We talked about that. Me and Yahoo talked about that. Said building a leader personality. Exactly. And that's the thing about leaders. Especially in my case, God took so much from me because I had to be empty. I had to be an empty vessel, a clean slate. I'm basically a vessel for the divine. God took everything. This is all I have. This teaching shit is all I have now. right? And I have other things too, but it's things that aren't relevant to my mission. So why would I, waste my time? When we talk about potential, I have another class where I talk about potential, because potential is the basis of all value. But I have so much potential, and I know all of y'all do too. Potential to do so much shit that could be glorified by all humans. But do you want the glorification of humans, or do you want God's glory? You feel me? Put it in the chat. Do you want God's glory? Now I explain Griffith to him. A lot of people don't know his story. I'm going to explain it right now. Griffith is a very important figure in his show. He is the antagonist. He started as a hero, but he became an antagonist, similar to Ozymandias. And this is why I like these type of characters, because they're able to touch both sides for the greater good, right? Griffith was not scared. He was a born leader. He led thousands and thousands of people, right? He was a bloody warrior. He was conquering many different lands, but ultimately he wanted to unite his people. He wanted to unite the world, but he wanted to be the king of that world. So you see that the ego clashing with the selflessness. He wanted to unite people, but he wanted to rule over it with an iron fist. That's the type of mentality that led him to making his sacrifice. He basically sacrificed his entire army, thousands of people, so that he could become a demon, right? And I know that sounds crazy. It's very demonic and dark things that we're dealing with, but I want you to see his game, because there is game in this. He sacrificed all of his people so that he could become a demon, right? Once he became a demon, he altered the world so that all humans could be safe and live in a utopia. But demons could also roam the land as well, but in their own designated area. Do you see how Griffith, he made complete balance on Earth? He put humans in a utopia and put demons in their own utopia as well. Now people see that as evil. Oh, he brought demons on the Earth, but demons got to be somewhere too, right? Now I'm not going to glorify what he did, because that shit was crazy. He sacrificed thousands of people, and some of the other things I'm not going to get into, because he was graping and doing all type of crazy shit. He's not a good person. But ultimately, his sacrifice was greater, right? He sacrificed these people so that the entire world could be happy. And demons. That's crazy. I would never sacrifice no shit so that demons could be happy. He became a demon though, so that was his goal. Terrible guy, in fact, but he was effective, very effective. And that's what I'm focusing on in today's class, effectiveness. We don't just make random ass sacrifices. Like when we sacrifice, especially if you're going to do some crazy shit like sacrifice some people, you need to accomplish your goals. I've sacrificed so many people. I used to be one of those people, hang around with a big ass clique, walk around like I'm the shit. I sacrificed all of those people. Those people did not care about me. If I was still hanging with those people, I would probably be dead. I'm not going to lie. Dead. Literally. So I hope you see that the importance of sacrifice. Griffith borderline saved the world. He didn't intend to save the world. He just wanted to be a king and rule over shit. But he sacrificed, he made a sacrifice, and he saved the world. For everybody, demons and humans. Some crazy stuff. Now I want to get into Edward Elric. Now, the other characters, I just wanted to include them because they made important sacrifices to do important shit. But Edward Elric is the embodiment of sacrifice. Edward Elric, if you can see, he is the boy with the blonde hair and the big ass gauntlet, right? This man has a pure heart of gold. I love his show. It's called Full Metal Alchemist. If you want to watch that, it's one of the greatest animes, probably top 2 animes of all time. But what Edward Elric did so good is he sacrificed himself to bring his mother back to life, right? Now, this is kind of relating to the Katniss Everdeen. When I told you that people sacrifice something to gain something else, but the divine has a greater plan for them, that was the same in Edward Elric's case. He sacrificed his leg so that his mother could come back to life, right? But it wasn't enough. The universe wanted more from him to bring his mother back to life. So the universe took his leg and his brother's entire body, sacrificed themselves. They were both doing it, not just Edward, but him and his brother. They sacrificed themselves so that their mother could come back to life. Now, their mother did not come back to life. Their mother, in fact, died. She died anyway. And the universe basically laughed in their face. But what the universe did was the universe gave them all of the knowledge regarding alchemy, right? Now, alchemy in their show is basically magic. It's basically occult knowledge on how to channel the divine into a way to, I guess, manipulate reality, right? He basically manipulates reality. That's what he does on a molecular scale. He gained all of the knowledge of the universe in exchange for his body and his brother's body. The divine he brought the divine to sacrifice. He said, okay, take this and give me my mother back. The divine doesn't play by our rules though. Sometimes the divine says, okay, I'll take your sacrifice, but I'm going to give you something completely different because you don't need your mother back. What you need is all of the knowledge in the universe so that you could save the world one day. Edward did not care about saving the world, but that was his purpose. The universe took everything from him so that he could save the world one day. He took that knowledge and he applied that shit to a higher purpose. You see me? That's basically how the divine operates. We give the divine one thing and then it takes a bunch of other things from us. That is very common. If that's happened to you, put a heart in the comments. It's very common on this spiritual path to put up something to the divine and then they take more than what you put up. But you get way more in return. I know some of these cases were super extreme. I know they were. But I need you to see the good and evil aspects of it, the duality of it. Sometimes we have to pull from a certain darkness to sacrifice what we need to sacrifice to get to where we want to be in life. That's just the truth. You feel me? I would not get to where I'm at today unless I sacrificed everything. And some people are called to sacrifice more than others. Some people aren't even called. Sometimes the divine just takes it from you, rips it from you. Sometimes it's by force, but this is what we got to go through. And it can be unfortunate at times. It could suck. That shit could really hurt. I've cried many nights over this shit. But finding peace in the present and allowing its manifestations to come suit over time, that's what allows us to rise above that pain. You see what I'm saying? For real. Now, that was a characterization of sacrifice, right? Hopefully you guys understand what we're getting into in today's lesson. I'm gonna go over a little lecture, kind of probably do a little story time, because I basically said everything I needed to say with those characters. But I do want to do a little bit of lecture where you guys can ask questions or whatnot, and then we can move on to the wealth building activity. All right, we're back. Some things since I was 15, since I've been on my spiritual journey that I've had to sacrifice. The first thing I had to sacrifice was my spiritual beliefs. I grew up Christian. I had the most archaic belief of what God was, and that's because that was what was fed to me as a child. I'm sure a lot of us have been there. Probably all of us have been there. You feel me? Said your worldview, basically, exactly. People don't understand what that is. At 15 years old, you're betting your entire existence, your life and your afterlife, on your ideals, on the things that you believe in. You feel me? It's like you're at the point where it's like, damn, what if I go to hell? But it's like you got to tune to some higher knowledge. You got to be like, okay, I got to risk going to hell to do what I know is right for me. That self-belief, that determination, that's what gets you there, not falling under fear doctrine, right? So I've had to sacrifice my beliefs. That was 15. At 16, I went vegan. I sacrificed my diet because I felt like eating meat was not aligned with my spiritual potential. And it's not. I'm not going to tell you that you have to not eat meat, but that was me. My spirit guide stepped in and they was like, cut it out. Cut it out. That shit is not aligned with you and who you are and what you promote. And I'm like, well, what do I promote? Like, I'm just a 16-year-old boy. They showed me through many experiences what I believe in. Trust me, if it's one thing that'll show you what you believe in, it's pain. I'm telling y'all. That was 16. I went vegan. At 17, I started sacrificing friendships. I started isolating myself. Back then, I was a musician and I would make beats at school. I remember. I would always go to detention. I never had detention. I would go to detention, act like I had detention so I could be away from everybody. Because I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? We walk around the school big and bad and shit, and none of us like what we're doing. None of us want to be here. None of us are trying to attain higher knowledge. We're all trying to kind of trapped in this social matrix. I wanted to escape that shit. 17, I sacrificed my friendships. Everybody. I was alone. 18, I sacrificed my stability. Every year, you'll notice that every year in my life since I was 15, I made a sacrifice. And I need you to start seeing your life like that as well. Every year. At 18, I sacrificed my stability. I sacrificed my family. And that's a crazy thing. I wouldn't advise you to sacrifice your family, but sometimes you have to. A lot of us have had toxic family members we had to get away from. And that's unfortunate, but that's life. You see? At 18, I was kicked out of my mother's house. I had to go find my own way. And I talked about this in the previous class, but that's real. I was homeless for a little bit. I had to sacrifice my stability, all to find out who I was, what I truly desire in life. When I was stripped of everything, I dropped out of school. I did everything. I had nothing. It was just me. It was just me and God. You see, I ended up going through a lot of pain. I sacrificed my health. I'm a health freak. Since I was 15, I've been a health freak. At 18, I was diagnosed with some bullshit. I ain't gonna lie. They said I had diabetes and that I had hella nerve damage in my feet. The nerve damage in my feet was true. The diabetes, false diagnosis, because I do not have diabetes. But I had nerve damage in my feet and I couldn't walk. This was from incomplete diet. When you're lacking vitamin B, when you're lacking iron in your blood blood cells get deformed and their blood cannot flow to the small blood vessels in your feet. My nerves in my feet were not getting blood, nor were they getting vitamin B, and the coating of your nerves, the coating of your nerve endings is vitamin B, basically. So I had nerve damage in my feet. They said I could not repair it. They said I was done. I could not walk for real. After I found housing again and got back on my feet, ironically, my feet healed. I started eating a more holistic diet again, and my feet healed. You see me? So when I say I'm a healer, when I say I'm a teacher, like, I don't just teach these things. I don't just talk about these things. Like, I live this shit. I've healed myself from acute illness. I want to get into healing chronic illnesses as well. I've never dealt with the chronic illness. Luckily, I'm very blessed. But that is my life goal, right? I'm in school to be a doctor. That is what I want to learn how to do, right? But I'm not just talking when I tell you all these things. That's why I talk about my history. I don't really like to be hella, open, but I kind of got to. I'm a leader. You see what I'm saying? I live this shit, right? That was 18. I sacrificed all of those things at 18, right? 19, I didn't really do too much sacrificing. What I did do was sacrifice my comfort, though. I was a hermit. After all of that pain, after all of that trauma, I was a hermit. I sacrificed that, and I started getting online. I started getting on social media. I started singing. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to express myself. I had to start expressing myself in new ways, find different art forms, because art is how we alchemize that pain. You see what I'm saying? I started singing, and I was making music, doing a bunch of things. God told me, like, hey, make all of this music and alchemize your pain. That's what God told me. I was like, cool, right? 20 years old, that's when I started booming. My music started getting a lot of traction. I was doing a lot of things in my community. I started doing shows. I'm talking few hundred people shows, right? In my community. That was so foreign to me. I was a hermit. I was nervous. I had stage fright. But as soon as I put that mic on my hand and I'm on stage doing my thing, it's like I get possessed by a whole other entity. Similar to when I'm teaching, but kind of different, right? I sacrificed my comfort at 20 years old, 19 and 20. Right? At 21, I'm 22 right now, by the way. At 21, all of that music empire that I was building, God told me to burn that shit the fuck down. So I could come on here and give you the Patient X holistic healing and teachings. Right? So I could be a teacher. God built my confidence up over those years, though. You see how I sacrificed all of those things so I could build my confidence up? I used to be a hermit. I used to be nervous. Now I'm confident. I'm bold. I'm unshakable. That was from sacrifice. Right? So do y'all see the reoccurring theme? How I sacrifice something every year of my life to receive something the next year? Everything led me to the next thing. Every sacrifice led me to that next goal. Has that happened to you? Put in the comments a heart if that's happened to you. Because if it's not happening to you, you're not trying hard enough. I'm not going to lie. Like, when you truly commit to this shit, that is how life is going to treat you. Life is going to demand that you sacrifice. Life is going to take shit from you so that you can rise to a higher occasion. Put a heart in the comments if you understand what I'm saying. We want things in life. We want things. Some of these things are material. Some of these things are holy. They're divine. They're non-physical. Either way, we got to sacrifice. And if you want some non-physical shit, you better be prepared to sacrifice. It's easy to get physical things. All I got to do is put up some money in here. It's easy to get physical things. If you want something that's spiritual and spiritually aligned with you, you better be prepared to go through the ringer. You got to be. Yep, comes to the point where you either let it go or it gets divinely removed. Exactly. My bad. Birth for confirmation, but exactly. You know how many things have had to been forcefully removed from me? Sometimes God got it. I'm stubborn. Sometimes God got to kick me to my knees for me to realize, okay, I got to give this up. It was for a season. Sometimes God gives us shit for a season. Dead ass. God has given me so much shield, so much armor, so much protection for one season. So I could learn how to swing. So I could learn how to block. But once God takes all that shit away from me, it's like, okay, I got to still do those things, but with what I have. If I don't have the sword anymore, I got to use my hands. You know what I'm saying? That's how you got to move in life. Not everything is about keeping all the things that the divine gives us. Sometimes we got to give it back. You feel me? And that's the entitlement mentality that we get into as human beings. We think we chosen. We think we deserve it all, and we do. But that doesn't mean that we get to keep everything. Sometimes we just get to have something for a season to perform a certain purpose. But we got to be prepared to give it back up. Because it's not ours. It's the divine's. You see me? It's the divine's. That was a lecture. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to keep y'all too long for the lecture. We're going to get into the wealth building activity now.